Well, it is 6 o'clock, so we can call the regular board meeting of Independent School District 882 to order.
So
With
moved.
that, we'll continue on. It is, like I said, it is 6 o'clock. We have the approval of the agenda, which is an action item.
This is Melissa. So moved. Second.
Who did the second?
Candy.
Candy. Thanks, Candy. Motion made by Melissa Curtis, second by Candace Carta. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candy?
Aye.
Misty Hansen?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff? Jeff here? I don't see that Jeff Hagley is on here yet, but Jill? Aye. So it has been approved 5-0. We'll continue on. Jill, I don't believe we had any citizens' comments.
No, we did
Any
not.
questions?
No.
So board members, we have item number 4, we have the consent agenda. So with that is the approval of the minutes, some personnel matters and other things in your packet. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those? Otherwise, it is an action item as well.
This is Melissa. So moved. Candy. Second.
Motion made by Melissa Curtis, second by Missy Hansen. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candace?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jill? Aye. And I'm just going to keep calling Jeff and see if he shows up. Jeff? Okay. Still not here. So it passes. The consent agenda is approved 5-0. Mr. Olson, we have the resolution of the acceptance of gifts.
Yeah, okay.
Is Mr. Olson here?
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Thank you, John.
There he is.
Yep, okay. But
Mr. Olson?
yeah, I'm
We are
sorry,
ready.
guys.
No worries. Are you okay?
I think I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna need to step out one more time. My dad is in the ER room right now, and actually have Dr. Herring, the director here at Center Care, trying to help Grand Rapids Hospital find a bed for him. So,
Eric, do you need to? If you need to leave, we can figure out the meeting.
yeah, I'm gonna have Barb take over for a little bit,
And we'll just reschedule your evaluation.
If I get this part going, I can come back because the bed is here in St. Cloud. So I'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so this is Barb here, and I can just talk through this gift if you'd like me to.
That would be great. Thank you, Barb.
Mr. Sherber's on the line too. He was the one that presented this, Barb.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great too. Go ahead, Jill. Have Jeff do that.
Yeah, the gift is what it is. It's an arrangement that the Peacemaker Foundation had worked out with different schools. It's very important that the curriculum, the second step, and the 7 Mind Steps curriculum are done with fidelity. And sometimes it's hard to validate that it's been done. So what they do is if they can go back and check, and teachers make a commitment to doing the curriculum, that SEL curriculum, with full fidelity, and they can validate that, then they get, each teacher got $100 for their classroom. And so we had 18 teachers, so we got an $18 check, and then they could buy supplies for their classroom.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, that's incredible, Jeff. Peacemakers is always we have such an incredible collaboration, and the work you've done with them has always been just exceptional. So we thank them for this donation. It is a resolution.
Therefore, be it resolved by the Monticello School District number 882 to gratefully accept the following gift from Peacemakers Minnesota, $1,800 to sponsor the 18 teachers who documented their second step lessons last year.
Second, this is Missy.
Motion made by Jennifer Lewis Canigator, second by Missy Hanson. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candy,
Aye.
Missy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Jennifer.
Aye.
Is Jeff here yet?
Yep, aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Welcome back. And Jill, aye. So motion passes, is gratefully accepted, 6-0. And I do want to note that I know Eric always does this, but we do have a total of year-to-date donations from our community and other partnering areas for $81,592.48. So that number continually climbs throughout the year, and we are super grateful for all the work we could not do if we didn't get these donations. We have our student representative report. Rachel and Jonathan, are you both going to be doing it tonight? Or do we just is there one of you that's reading it?
Yeah, we'll both say a little something.
We are
Okay.
here today.
Okay, well, welcome. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. So there aren't too many major problems at the high school right now from a student perspective, but one of the major ones is just making sure that we keep that 6 feet social distancing at all times, especially when we're not wearing masks. And I think we most commonly see that during lunch. I know that during my lunch with seniors and juniors, it's not happening that much, but I think it's happening a little bit more with the sophomores and the freshmen, and we need to just make sure that that's not happening as much because COVID will spread that way. Another big problem is people still aren't checking in online every day when they're not at school. I think one of the things that we just need to make as students, for me personally, motivation is a big problem when I'm at home because I get distracted easily. But I think students who find like a good schedule really succeed. So like as soon as you log into your Chromebook, you check in right away for attendance, or you can even check in on your phone. I know that's how I do it. And then just making sure that you keep classes and homework really organized in that way too. Also, we've had a bit of a warm front come back. So classes, primarily English classes, have been able to go back outside. And I know that's a treat for me because it kind of reverts back to normal because you don't have to wear masks and you're still 6 feet apart, but it's a little bit more normal in that way. Just finishing up the first quarter, I think all of the student body would say that this is much better than last year. I think everything's a little bit more organized. And with Google Meets, you have a lot more synchronous learning. So everyone's learning at the same time. And I think it feels a little bit more normal in that way. And I think we should just continue to try and do this until we can't anymore.
Also, I know a lot of kids are still struggling with that, the hybrid schedule, not being able to see the teachers every day, but it's definitely getting easier. We're getting more into more of a routine now. So we're all just kind of getting used to it, I think, still. So now we're gonna move into winter sports are starting up, and in like the early December is when most of them are starting. I know dance is starting next week. We actually started our choreography today, so that's really exciting to get back into everything. I know all the athletes who are in winter sports are so excited to be back. It's just like a little more normalcy after being shut down for so long and not being able to do anything. With the music department, we are now able to play every single day with special masks and those bell coverings. And it's just really nice, like I said, with the normalcy again, just kind of like getting back into the routine that we had before we were shut down and just kind of getting back into everything like normal. We have our concerts mid-December, and we're all just really excited for that. I know the band director is really excited to get back into everything so we can just get back to normal more since we've been shut down for so long and not been able to do all of that. But overall, everything at the high school has been going really well. I think there's a lot of buzz about getting shut down now that cases are rising and all of that. But yeah, we're all just doing our best with what we have right now. So yeah.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for our student representatives?
This is Candy. I just wanted to thank you guys for coming again and presenting tonight. It's good to hear the positive things, but it's good for us too to hear those things that are tough for you guys as well, because then we can do what we can to make those better. So it is good to hear that things are improving. Are there any things that you've heard from other students that are just still really you're struggling with? I know kind of what we've been hearing from others is that kind of the mood is a very different thing. It's difficult to kind of get back into that spirit with a lot of stuff, but Anything else that you guys are hearing?
Mostly just with, again, not being in class every day. People are struggling a lot with procrastination and everything, and just not having that set schedule like we had before, and like teachers getting on students about being on top of things and everything. So I think that's really the only issue that I can really think of. Johnny, do you think of anything else?
No, that's pretty much what I got too. Just making sure that, I don't know, it's harder to do stuff when you're not in class.
All right, thanks, Candy. Thank you, Rachel and John. We appreciate you being here. Mr. Olson.
All right. Well, John, Jonathan, and Rachel, great having you both together. I don't remember too many times over my 15 years where we've had the duo speaking and presenting together, and I really like that feature. You guys are doing awesome. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, I'll have Jill roll our pictures, and we'll kind of pause because normally we could do this in person, but obviously like Jonathan and Rachel talked about just the challenges that we all face in doing things differently. Well, one of the things that we got to do recently is we got to work with the VFW, and the VFW wanted for the administration to work with them, collaborate, and they wanted to identify teachers of the year. So the Smart Maher Outstanding Educator of the Year Award. And we got to look at this with our VFW people, and the teachers that are in front of us here today, both on Zoom and also their pictures here, are people who exemplify doing great things for people. They work on developing citizenship. They work on developing strong values and character within each student, and they dedicate their existence as being an educator to people and making them better. So as you can see here, we have some amazing educators, and so all these educators, Emily Eit, Liz Barnes, Marcy Beal, Shelley Burns, Melissa Erickson, Michelle King, Kim Kinerza, Jennifer Mackey, Anna Morphew, Ryan Nett, Derek Swart, Jason Telecki, Jen Vogel, Shannon Welly, Sarah Welk, and Andrea Ziba will all get an essay written by the administrator and VFW rep that nominated them. And then they will also get a certificate thanking them for their outstanding service. And we really appreciate being able to partner with our VFW. The VFW said that they've been waiting a long time to bring forward amazing teachers from our local level to the state level. So all these people will get to move on to the state level, and we'll see if we can't get state and national champions out of the fine people and the great work of the administrator to acknowledge these awesome people. So look forward to seeing where this can go for us, for these people.
Well, that's awesome, and that's really exciting for our staff, and to continue to expand our wonderful educators getting recognized and having that done on a prominent level. So really proud of all of these educators and the hard work that they do.
Eric, when do we find out about them going on to the next level? That's really exciting news that we had so many in.
Yeah. So the next level, I know the deadline was at the end of October, so the last day of October. And then I believe the months of November and December are the months that the local people get together and select a few. So it could be, I think it's about 2 from our region that get brought down to the state. So even though we're at this level right now, there is, in order to even make it to the state level, will be challenging because they'll be up against people from our region. But yeah, I have no doubt with the fine people that we brought forward, and you could have picked, probably, 700 more, but from our district, because we do have amazing people. It'll be exciting to see, but I have no doubts that I just have a feeling that we're going to get somebody to keep moving on.
All right, well, we'll continue on, Mr. Olson, with the first reading of policies for policy 707.
Yeah, so this is the first reading. We did have this at our subcommittee meeting. Director Heidi Nissler brought this forward. What we have been noticing is that we have students on the buses, especially special education buses, for long periods of time, sometimes in that 60-minute range, two ways. And when we look closer, we realize that we don't have a policy that states how long a child can be on the school bus. So the director thought this would be a good starting spot is to bring this forward. While we brought it forward through a special education lens, the mileage is the same for all students. So right now we worked with Hoagland Transportation just to see how far we are going right now into a neighboring district, and the farthest we go for any bus stops, you're supposed to stop at the borders, but there might be certain cases, like if we have students who have been attending our school district and all of a sudden they have a 5 to 10 students that are attending our school district, but they live in a certain area that's right inside a neighboring school district. Parents have made proposals for us to, drive an extra short distance in order to pick up a group stop. And so over the years, this has happened. We don't go into neighboring districts just to go into neighboring districts and try to drum up business. But when there are pre-existing circumstances, like a student or several students have been open enrolled and they all live in a certain area, we will go to those areas for a set amount of distance in. And right now, like I said, 3.6 miles is the furthest we go, and that's over the bridge in Clearwater. We were stopping right at like the junction of 75 and 24, but then there was a significant number of students over the bridge, and so instead of having them all get in their cars and drive, that we do go across 94 to pick up at one specific neighborhood. So so this happens from time to time, and like our director said, use the same distance of miles for special education as you do regular education. And so that's why we're bringing this forward, is to try have some unification and to try keep students from having to be on a bus for an extended amount of time. So I'm bringing this policy forward. The number that we did kind of arrive at would be 5 miles, since we currently go 3.6. Wanted to leave a little bit of cushion there in case something came up where it just made sense to travel just a little bit extra distance. So this will help our transportation contract as well, because currently we don't have anything like this in place. So parents could conceivably push issues, and we could be transporting students from a distance that doesn't make sense for a student when they potentially could get the same service within their home district. So it's just to protect students so they're not on buses for an extended length of time.
Okay. Well, board members, no, go ahead, Eric.
I guess I'll go. Oh, since that's first.
Yep, I was just going to move on from that one. That one was first. And if board members have any questions about this prior to our next meeting, which is next week, please contact our policy committee or Mr. Olson. And we'll continue on again with the second reading of policies, which will be an action item.
Yeah, so the next policy really just makes changes to a word that we should be using instead of an old word. So it's being more caring in our policy and making sure that we identify students with their their correct name. So it's always student first, and then with a disability, not identifying a person or a student by their disability itself. So it's changing those words throughout this document, and I think it's just those 2 times where it talks about a disabled students, and we're changing that to students with disabilities.
Okay.
And then policy 553, students with food allergies and special dietary needs. So we were lucky enough to have Sierra McDonald share this one with us the last time, or the last school board meeting. And now we're just bringing it forward for final approval. But really looking at students with dietary needs and making sure that we have the words in here to help guide us to making sure that our students stay healthy through their dietary needs that they need. So the changes right there really have to do with USDA requirements, and then looking at a statement in here about special dietary statement must be received and approved by the food service director before accommodations begin. So it's more of a checks and balance. Make sure that we have things in place so that we keep kids safe.
All right, thank you, Mr. Olson. Again, these are action items, so if there aren't any additional questions, we can take a motion.
I move to approve the policies as presented.
I second. Candy.
Candy.
Yeah.
Motion made by Jennifer Lewis Cannigator, second by Candy Carta. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candy?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Jill? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Ms. Wilson, you have a COVID update.
Yep, we just have a brief update tonight for you, and we can go to the first slide, Jill. That'd be great. So as you know, last Wednesday we had a consult with Minnesota Department of Health, and they talked through the local numbers with us, and their feedback was very positive, that we have a lot of good safety practices in place, and that they could really see that, you know, we were taking very proactive steps just in the practices that we have in place to keep staff and students safe. And our efforts really are aimed at keeping our students in school as long as possible. And we also addressed the rising county numbers that we see. And their quote, or their analogy, was that in the end, we're sandbagging a river, and eventually the numbers that are happening in the community are likely to come into our schools one way or another. So they just really encouraged us to keep doing what we're doing, to keep people safe, to keep watching our own numbers within our buildings closely, and that if we could, even with the best safety practices in place, be in a position to have to move to distance learning. And they really just wanted us to do everything that we can while we have this opportunity with students and staff in place to prepare everyone for distance learning when that, you know, happens for us. So we have some updates of just some date changes and some things that are happening in November. And we just want to highlight these for you so that you can be aware of them. Starting on November 10th, which is tomorrow, Eastview will move to hybrid. So with all of our good safety practices in place, we are going to still take the precaution of moving to hybrid at the elementary level. And tomorrow, Eastview will be ready to make that move. And then on Wednesday, Pinewood and Little Mountain will move to hybrid at the elementary level. So With that being the case, tomorrow, the 10th, is a planning day for Little Mountain and Pinewood, so they can continue to get locations set up, procedures in place, staff ready to move students to that hybrid model. And then on November 23rd and 24th, there will be half days of planning in the morning, and then conferences for parents. Those are going to be remote conferences. Teachers will be at school, parents will be at home, and they will dial in for conferences. And on those 2 days, our secondary students will be practicing distance learning. Those will be distance learning days at the secondary level. That will give us some time in our buildings and with staff separation right prior to the holidays. And then we do have Monday, November 30th scheduled as a planning day district-wide, so that we can continue to do some training and some preparation for distance learning. With that, we've got a great plan in place, but we also heard on our county call that, you know, county numbers can change quickly and the scenarios inside the schools can change quickly, so that we need to be ready and mindful that with the best laid plans, our county numbers are expected to rise in the next few weeks of reporting. So we will be keeping an eye to them, and then we will also just continue to prepare students and staff if we should have to go to distance learning.
Barb, can I ask a question? What have we done to communicate to our family members? And Eric, you can chime in on this too, that about the necessity and how the numbers are going, that we may be at distance learning sooner than we had hoped. Or that, not that we ever hoped to be there at all, but being we are where we are. What are we doing? Because we know that there would have to be a lot of adjustments for families to make.
Right. I know, Eric, you can address this a little bit more, but we did address that a little bit in the last communication that went out to parents, but Eric can address that
Yeah, I mean,
specifically too.
If we went back, you know, it would be at least 6 times that we've talked about understanding that things do change and we have to always be ready. We're trying to, you know, give plans that are longer, you know, longer in duration, but we also have to be ready to be able to move quick. And I mean, it's not going to be easy. People aren't going to like to hear that when we do have to change, but that is the reality of where we are right now with the rising river. So that is the reality, and it will be communicated every chance that we get. We are doing a survey. We have it ready to go, and we'll do another survey of families, just asking how things have been going in hybrid scenario. What are some things that they expect out of distance learning, because it's a lot different when it's on the cusp and numbers are going high to ask those questions than it is back in August when you know it's really not on the forefront of your thought of your mind. So we have that survey ready to go, and it'll be part of this week's communication.
We've also been working with Community Ed, and they are really you know, in making really great plans for childcare should we go to distance learning for those critical workers and those tier 1 workers. So we're doing what we can to be as ready internally as possible, even if we have to make a quick switch.
Okay. Thank you for that information. And I hope as things continue, and as Eric, as you've said, both of you, in the rising river and things that are beyond our control, I would hope our community does what they always do and just steps up and knows that we're doing the best we can to support our students and our families, and choices need to be made that are beyond our control. And that we're just trying to do the best to keep our community, staff, teachers, families, everybody healthy.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
we're taking every opportunity we can in this time right now to get devices in students' hands and to really be preparing our teachers for distance learning. It will look different than it did last spring.
Yeah.
So every opportunity that we have, we really want to take advantage to make sure that our staff are ready for that quick transition too. So Sue Height and Cindy Fasching are on the call, and so they're going to give you a little bit of update on devices and training that is coming up for staff.
Okay.
Can I ask a couple questions first?
Sure.
Are we providing any other services for families if they're not considered emergency critical workers? For example, if we have a parent that has 3 individuals in elementary school and we go distance learning and obviously they can't leave work, what kind of are we providing any other opportunities for people or through the district, or is it just for a specific group of people?
I don't know if Jeremiah is on the call or not. You know, he'd probably be best. Oop, I see his name flashing up there. So we'll let Jeremiah talk a little bit what the childcare options are. And Sue and Cindy, thank you just for waiting a moment. Thank you.
If we do go to full distance learning, we do have the option of we have to prioritize care for the tier 1 workers that is outlined by the state. But then with the buildings being empty, we will provide also care at a fee for any family who needs care during that time. But we do have to, based on how much staffing we have, we do have to prioritize tier 1 for sure. And anything extra we will. So like for the upcoming ones here, like tomorrow, the 2 conference days and the 30th, we do have registration open for both families, tier 1 and non-tier 1s to come in. It's just the tier 1 get it free during the daytime. They still pay for before and after school. And the non-tier 1 families just pay a flat fee for the days. So they would have care available from 6 to 6 every day as well.
All right, children.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Is it possible to make, if we do go distance learning, that people understand that if they're obviously in a situation where they can't take off of work, that these options are available to them?
It does get put out into the letter that goes out, and then it directs them if they need childcare, and does say tier 1 and non-tier 1s, so they just sign up in the same spot just based on which calendar they pick for the option of their employment.
But we can highlight that, Jeff, certainly in our next communication out to families. And then we can also have, especially elementary principals, maybe promoting it with their parents and families as well. So we can keep that in the forefront.
And then another thing, just for you guys to know that, so like when Jeremiah, started planning for this last week, one of the things that, we made a decision to do is just to make sure that we offer, the guidance says tier 1 and tier 2, that they would have to be, both spouses, but we decided just to have it be one family member, one parent. That way we're providing over service, just like Jeff is talking about, provide over service as long as we are able to for all families.
Jeremiah, I have another question. I'm just curious about if you qualify for free and reduced lunches, is there a sliding scale for Magic Adventures?
We can do that for this. Typically we do not during the regular year. Most of those families get put on county assistance or different kind of assistance. But if we want to, we can come up with a sliding fee scale for low income families if they don't qualify as a tier 1.
It might be something, I'm certainly, I don't know that we're in a position to take an action item if that's what we need tonight, but I think it would be worth investigating for families who, count on school as their childcare.
Yep. The biggest thing is not going to be space. It'll be staffing. Will be
Okay.
our biggest issue.
I think that would be it. Like I said, thanks for that, Jeremiah. I just think that would be a worthwhile discussion to have.
Yep. We could do it on a sliding scale income, kind of like we do with school
Yep.
readiness.
Yep.
So question, like if these students are coming to the district during distance learning and their parents are working, do they go ahead and do their distance learning right at school then? Or is it more of, how does that work?
When we did in the spring, we did provide that opportunity at the time. This year with everybody having their own device, we can set them up during the day to do their distance learning. since the teacher is leading that instruction now, makes it a lot easier than the staff trying to help. So we'll be able to accommodate that as well.
And then Eric, where are the other districts at? Big Lake, St. Michael, Becker, Buffalo. Where are they at? Are they at the same situation we're at as far as the actual model of instruction right now, or have they gone a different direction?
Yeah, we're all very similar right now. Elk River kind of announced, I think they were the first one in the area. We touched their border. So I think they were the first one to announce that on November 16th, they will be distance learning for secondary students. And so in hybrid for elementary. So we've, obviously making a move this week makes us similar, a little ahead of the curve as far as elementary goes. I would say that we are ahead of the curve. Most people are still in that in-person. As we went through our consults last week, we haven't seen the spread, as we go and look at our contact tracing, we haven't seen community spread in our buildings. And like Barb says, and what you'll hear a lot from MDH and Wright County Public Health is that the schools are very safe. So Wright County schools are doing the things that it takes to keep students safe. And we have, the air handler systems, we have the protocols for cleaning, and we have obviously 6 feet, and we're in masks, where if you go out into the public, I went to Costco last week on a Wednesday, and they're at distance learning for much of their school in St. Cloud. And they have, kids at skate parks, I don't want to exaggerate, but like 80 of them, so by going to distance learning, you can, and this is what MDH talked about, you can actually put community spread out into your community, depending on what families are choosing to do. Where in schools for that 6 hours, the things that Wright County schools are doing are very healthy for kids and for staff. If we were seeing community spread come in, there would be a no-brainer. We would have to be stopping this, but we are looking at the tracing models every time and finding out exactly where it came from. Did it come from something that happened outside, or is it coming from class to class? And right now it's coming from things that are happening on personal time for students and staff when they are contacting COVID.
Eric, I think the way that I think what's going to happen here, and this is just my opinion, but I think we'll continue to do a good job in the schools as far as keeping people safe and safety measures, that sort of thing. But what I've been reading for a lot of districts is it's not so much that what's going on in school, but we're just running out of people to man classes and for substitute teachers. And, it's, just people being careful outside or just still being exposed simply because of the numbers of people that have COVID right now. And once you're at that exposure point, then, it puts you in that whole different group that you start your quarantine. And I think, as safe as it is in our schools, the thing that I worry about the most is that we're going to start to see that, a teacher's kid in their class was exposed and now they have to quarantine, and not anything they did wrong or not anything we're doing wrong in the district, but it's just a matter of time before we don't have enough teachers to cover classes and we don't have enough subs to cover classes for teachers. You look at the St. Cloud, Sauk Rapids, Sartell district, that's their biggest issue right now, is they don't have enough people to cover classes anymore, just simply because they haven't done anything wrong, but they're just having to quarantine. Teachers are having to quarantine, subs are having to quarantine. And so it's just, it's, I guess what I'm saying is that no fault of ourselves or the school districts. It's just, it's something we've controlled this, I think, as best as we can control it, have done our very best. And I think we're going to get at a point here pretty soon where it's out of our hands. I mean,
Right.
Choices are being made that we have no control over.
That
Jeff?
is exactly what the guy from MDH said during the consult last week, is that they were finding across the state that schools are doing a good job keeping it out of the school or keeping the spread out. But once the community gets as high as we are getting, that it just becomes impossible to keep it out of the schools, and you start getting an entire, food service workers are all sick or exposed, or an entire grade needs to be quarantined. And when you get to that point, then the schools are needing to act quickly to move to distance.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that we're trying to do with the infrastructure too, and Barb has been doing a great job of hiring 60-day subs, where schools like St. Cloud specifically, their sub pool wasn't as deep as ours. I mean, back in August, when I was working with their HR director on a particular incident or case, that they really were struggling to build up, even fill some of their existing spots. And so we've been able to not only bolster on the front end, but we also we have continued each week or two hire some additional 60-day subs. But what you and Jennifer are talking about is absolutely right. There will be a time where the infrastructure will not be able to hold what's going on in the community. And I think that's, as a school board, as a district, it's a big decision. As we heard from the students early on, I mean, I think, I would say, most students are very appreciative that they have all the learning model options right now, because when you go down to just one, finding that type of learner that suits that type of learning model the best isn't as high. So I think, as a school board, I appreciate, we got to keep asking the questions. We have to keep, being transparent. I was pretty proud of our people to sit at the table last week and to find out that we're the first district that pulled all those employee groups together at one time. Just means that we want people to have firsthand knowledge. We want to protect people. We also know that how students learn best is important to us as a district.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
I'm sorry, Jill, just one more
No
comment
worries.
and then I'll be done.
Nope.
I think it's important, and I'll just speak for myself as a member of the board, that I've been very adamant that I think it's important that our students in the classroom, but I think when you start looking at all of our numbers and the direction this is going, I think we really need to start taking the concern of our staff and about where, the position that they have and they feel about this, and start to understand, now we're just adding additional stress to their lives with maybe larger classrooms or things like that. So I think it's something as a board that we need to seriously talk about at either through committee meetings or maybe a special meeting as we move forward some of these decisions.
We will talk about this tomorrow at committee meetings, and we have meetings with our employee groups that are getting on the calendar right now as we speak today, Jeff. So those will be forthcoming. So you're right on. Thank you for that. Yep. Totally.
Are
agree.
we keeping and tracking like the quarantine numbers for staff, and being able to track how many in a certain group are out sick or quarantined at a certain time?
We did that last week, just prior to our MDH consult. That's the first time that we've done that, so we have not been keeping back. We certainly have records of who's out on quarantine, but remember, a quarantine could be, my child was exposed somewhere over there. It doesn't have, it's just
Right.
very complicated, not as clear of an indicator. So, but we can definitely pull that, but we have not been tracking that up until last Wednesday. We did it for the county meeting. The county wanted that.
I think the quarantine has actually been something that has protected our students and staff. I mean, we do have high numbers of staff and students who have been quarantined or who have stayed home, I should say, who have stayed home when they're feeling ill. And it really, I think that alone is one of the things that has helped reset our hopefully our whole society, but for sure our buildings where normally we have people who work through some of the, illnesses. And now when you have, 2 symptoms, and it might be in your head, but you still, you stay home so that in case it is COVID normally, and then, I should say, yeah, normally would be a good word, or the majority of the times those come back non-COVID, but yet it still was good to not spread other sicknesses, and that helps too. But at some point it goes back to the infrastructure, not being able to hold those.
Right. And it is regular cold and flu season, starting in mid-October through, middle of January, February. So we would much rather have people stay home and do a false quarantine, even if you will, or like not a COVID related quarantine. It does keep people safe, but you are all right on in saying that, we do need staff in the buildings if we're going to have students in the buildings. So there is a point where, we'll have to evaluate that.
All right. I don't see this on my agenda, Barb, but that Sue and Cindy are talking, so you must have it on yours.
Yep, it's just the next slide in the presentation.
Oh, okay.
Jill. So, yep, we'll just go right on quick.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for allowing us to say a few things. So, student device update. The K2, there are a total of 850 for our K2. They're here. We delivered the first batch to our kindergarten distance learning students last week. Our paras have been helping us on Fridays unbox and prepare for distribution. And our paras, they are just, I'm so proud, they just are crushing it in terms of unboxing and getting them ready for setup and distribution. So that's just really been awesome to have them help us. And this week we will have them ready for Little Mountain and Pinewood, and we'll get those out to our classrooms as quickly as possible. Our 3rd and 4th grade devices, the new devices that we ordered, they are not here yet. But I think once we get devices back from our K2 and we start pulling our devices in from our carts again, we should have enough to cover our 3-4 on 3rd and 4th grade until the devices get here. They are they're I guess across the pond, if you will. They just are right now. They're sitting in quarantine, and they're starting to see movement to distribution. So we should be seeing them, but I have not been given a firm date. So training, then the next area is training for improved distance and hybrid instruction. Last week we put out a needs assessment for our teaching staff, asking them, what do you need for in terms of technology, hardware and devices, tools that you might need for delivering distance and hybrid instruction. We also asked them what some of their reservations or concerns are, and then also addressed the area of synchronous instruction and asked about solutions or recommendations, and we've been getting really great feedback. A lot of staff have responded already to that. We have over 100 responses in that from Thursday to today. So today, or last week, and then again today, we met with our digital learning cohort. We did some planning sessions on, we put together a guide on transitioning to effective distance learning, and meeting with our K2 6 through 12 last week, and K5 today, along with our current distance learning teachers as part of the group. We talked about, and each of the grade levels has put together a training plan along with their building principal for training for the distance or hybrid. So training in grades 6 through 12 already started on November 6th, more today, and then November 30th. training for grades K through 5 will occur on November 6th, 9, 10, the 23rd, and November 24th. And so then our next step is after we'll close up that needs assessment and start to analyze, what the technology need is, what can we do now, or what can we afford to purchase and get in our hands quickly now, and then get out to the teachers. Just quickly looking over it, a lot of the things teachers are saying that they need is a second screen or a second device along with their laptop. A lot of them are asking for a document camera, a better microphone. So those are they're not expensive. It's just a matter of getting them. A lot of the monitors, I have on site about 60 monitors that I could already start to distribute. But doc cams are a little more difficult to get. Microphones kind of hit and miss on exactly depending on what they want. That's it for me.
Any questions for Sue, or Cindy's here as well? All right, then the last thing that I'd like to talk with you about and update you on is just a request to increase our substitute rates. This is to keep pace with some of the changes we're seeing in nearby districts. We're proposing days 1 to 20 would be at the $150 rate.
Barb, can we, well, unless we move that agenda item up, because that's agenda item 12.
Yeah.
And we have a calendar amendment to do before that.
Okay.
It's kind of slated for the presentation, and then the board items or the action items are.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just hoping it would go quicker that way, if that's all right.
Yep,
so
you're fine.
21 to 50 would be 160, and 51 plus days would be at 170. And we are hiring subs at the 60-day rate, which continues to be $175 a day from the very first day. Okay. So please keep that in mind, and that is an action item coming up on the agenda, but this will help us keep the subs that we do have and pay them appropriately for what the market is asking for right now. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Barb. Thank you, Sue and Cindy as well. Eric, I think we've gone over the calendar amendment, now we just need to make that official.
Yeah. So what I thought we'd always do, just so we don't confuse it, but like Barb has been having a standard COVID update every board meeting. And that's an update. And then if we have any action items that stem from an update, then we'll always have an agenda item after it, sort of clearly separates her update from action that's needed. So now we have action needed. Right now we're just trying to take 1 month at a time. And so the dates that need to be adjusted would be November 6th, 10th, and 30th. Are all MDE planning dates. And I will record this on our Minnesota Department of Education portal, where I have 2 weeks right now to identify the learning model change. So at the elementary, we have went from in-person to hybrid. And so I will get that change on the MDE portal here this week, along with these 3 calendar dates changed. As long as you approve to amend our school calendar.
Okay. This is an action item.
I move to approve the proposed calendar change to designate November 6th, 10th, and 30th as MDE planning dates.
Second, this is Melissa.
Motion made by Jennifer Lewis Cannigator, second by Melissa Curtis. All those in favor say aye. By roll call, Candy?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Jill? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. And rolling right into that.
Jill?
Yes. Yeah.
I think November 23rd and 24th, they were also altered a half a day, and I did not put that on here. So I want to we need to add November 23rd and 24th. They were distance learning days for high school, but we have added the elementaries to have planning days in the morning. It still fits in within our allotted time, and that way we don't have students coming in for a half a day and then the teachers have to do conferences. So we are adding those as planning days too. I'm so sorry for doing those.
No worries at all. It's just we'll have to redo it then, because I don't think we can just add it, can we, Jill?
You're right. It would be best to add the additional 2 days.
Okay, we need to make a note. We did approve the previous, since that was done, we're going to complete that and approve the previous calendar amendments, and that was approved 6-0 with November 6th, November 10th, and November 30th. We do need to have an additional action item to approve distance learning training days for the elementary, because that was already at the high school and middle school. So this is exclusively for the elementary because they were already in place at the high school and middle school. So for November 23rd and November 24th, those will be changed to distance learning training days in the morning and then conferences in the afternoon. So we need an action item on that.
So moved.
Second, this is Missy.
Okay. Motion made by Jennifer Lewis Cannigator, second by Missy Hansen. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candy?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Jill, aye. Motion passes 6-0. Now, Mr. Olson, continuing on to the sub-rate increase, which is an action item.
Yeah, and Barb is going to do this one.
Yep, so we need an action item to adjust the sub rates as indicated to the amounts to the amounts shown in the agenda.
Okay.
So moved.
Second, this is Melissa.
Motion made by Jeff Hagley, second by Melissa Curtis. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Jill, aye. Motion passes 6-0. I did notice something, and Mr. Guyan, I know you were here and we were talking about the trip request in the beginning and that got caught up in the consent agenda. Was there something specific you wanted to speak to on that?
I was just going to kind of just speak about the trip a little bit, kind of give you some ideas or numbers and answer any questions that people have, and to kind of get everybody's thoughts and opinions on it.
I apologize. Is this a good time to just bounce back before we get into the Tina show a little bit?
I'm okay with that. I was going to speak up, but I wasn't sure if you're coming back to it or not.
I was looking, thinking it was coming up, and then I just realized it was in the consent agenda. So is this a good time? Tina, are you okay? You forgive us? Thank you. So,
Mr. Guyan, I'm sorry about that. I had to step out for a second. I wanted to kick that off as we transition, because I just wanted to say that I've never seen somebody put forth the energy and professionalism into a trip request that you did. I mean, the questions and the work that you did was absolutely awesome. So, I would love to hear about it, and sorry that I didn't catch that.
Well, like I said, I just caught it now, realizing I'm like, I knew it was coming, but anyway, for those of you, I'm sure you looked at it, board members, but this is referencing the Washington, D.C. trip that is potential that Mr. Guyan gratefully and, amongst other staff, escorts our students and is here to answer any questions or give us some input on the planning.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Mr. Olson. Thank you, board. Thank you very much. Mr. Olson, I hope everything's okay with your father for sure. And thanks for the kind words. Just a couple things. So this would be the itinerary that's up there right now. It's from 2020. What we would have done or something very similar, but this would be for 2022. I think on the agenda it might say 2021. So I just want to verify that. So it wouldn't be until 2022. And one reason why we were looking at 2022, I know that's a long ways out. I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now with COVID and the rising numbers and things like that, but just to kind of take a look for something for our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors to look forward to. Right now, the seniors have had an opportunity to take this trip as sophomores. The juniors have not. They were freshmen the last time we took this trip. So just to give students an opportunity to get out to our nation's capital, do some learning outside of the classroom in Washington, D.C., we think would be a great experience for all of them, as well as our underclassmen as well. To go along with that, why now, especially with everything that's going on? Usually we don't start planning for something like this until about a year in advance when we really start to roll it out. So if we were going to leave in April of 2022, we wouldn't roll it out till April or May of 2020 or 2021, excuse me. So we decided, hey, right now, there's a few companies that are offering risk-free enrollment. So if students sign up by December 15th, they can cancel, we can cancel our trip as long as it's by May 1st, 100% fully refundable trip. Plus it gives families a little bit more time to plan, a little bit more time to save. Right now, over the next 17 months, it'd be an average of $75 a month to pay, instead of saying, hey, now you have to pay $130 a month. So try to help out with some of that financial ease as well for families in our district, because it is a tough time with unemployment numbers a little bit higher than what they were 6-7 months ago as well. So part of our thought was, if we can start to roll it out now, try to get as many kids signed up before that December 15th deadline, then maybe wait and maybe hold off on signing up more kids until maybe April 15th. I thought would be a good date to kind of say, hey, things are looking pretty good. We have a year from now until we would leave. Let's continue with the trip and open up that sign up again, so that we could all get our money back if needed. Hey, if things are looking pretty poor at that time, we can cancel a trip and maybe start looking at 2023 or maybe beyond that. So we just wanted to give that idea, or that possible little carrot out there for something for kids to look forward to as well as they continue to move forward through this tough time. In the trip request, itinerary, safety protocols, I've tried to answer those questions the best I could. Right now, the cost would be $13.69, which is roughly the same as what it was in 2019, the last time we took the trip. So to be able to keep that price at roughly the same is pretty good, I thought, overall. So I guess I just wanted to come to the board with any thoughts, any reservations, as parents, as board members, as our superintendent, any thoughts, reservations, anything that I can try to answer to the best of my ability. Where, you know, one of your students or sons or daughters was coming home to ask you about this trip, that you would have for our trip for 2022.
Well, this would be a really great time to ask any questions, because the reality is we've already approved it in the consent agenda. So okay. We would have to be doing some backtracking if any board members had any strong feelings against it. I think I could speak to it and say, if I still had a student in the high school and they came to me with this, and that there is that much time to get money back, and that it would be for March of 2022, right? Is that the spring break usually that time frame is when you go? Or
so the last 2 times that we went, 2019 and 2017, we actually went the day after Easter. So it was that Monday after Easter. It worked out where we had that Monday off of school. Now we don't know what the 2022 calendar looks like, 2021, 2022. But that's kind of worked out. It seems like the best. This year our spring break is in early March. It's tough to go to DC in early March. You don't know if it's going to snow. You don't know if it's going to be boots and jackets. Usually by April, end of April, it's usually fairly nice. We tend to do a lot of walking, exploring on our own, being outside. So it's nice to have that nicer weather to be able to walk around in shorts or maybe a lighter jacket rather than snow boots and who knows what.
Sure. So board members, any comments?
I think
did
it sounds really fun.
I had a daughter that did this trip and it was absolutely amazing. She still talks about that trip to this day, and it was quite a while ago. That was my oldest. So I am really thankful that we have this opportunity again for the students, because they have one left and I know he's going to want to try and take advantage of this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the head on this, because this is amazing trip. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing. It has to be an unbelievable amount of work, because you have to foresee some of those things that were never had to think about even in the past. So I appreciate you doing all this work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes,
I went
thank
on
you.
a similar trip my senior year of high school, and it was one of the highlights. So you did a really nice job putting together the request and kind of covering all those what ifs that we don't really know right now, but this is far enough in advance that hopefully, things will work out and students will be able to go on this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I really hope my daughter wants to go.
Hey, so do I. That would be absolutely amazing. So appreciate that.
Yes.
All right.
Proud of you,
Well,
Grant.
I don't
Nice
hear.
job.
Oh, I don't hear
Yeah,
any.
thank you very much. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'll keep the board and Mr. Olson, I'll keep you up to date as well, kind of where we're at with everything, as well as Mike and Lori, just to keep them in the loop as well, because I think that's important, and keep that open communication. So thank you.
Well, you got your approval, Mr. Guyan, so there you go.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody.
We appreciate you coming. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And now Tina,
Yes.
I just gave you a little bit of extra time to prepare.
Give me a little extra time. Quiet down.
There you go. 2019-2020 end of school year report. Or no, the revised 2021 membership fee for the high school league.
Yes, so the Minnesota State High School League has membership fees for all school districts to participate in. And just like school districts, they're affected by COVID-19. And so what they're trying to do is increase the membership fee to all schools. They have lowered their budget for this year. And then based on how this year performs, it looks like they would refund if they operated a surplus to give a credit back to school districts, but they are putting this COVID-19 fee on to school districts for the year.
Okay, so this is an action item?
And is every district paying the same amount?
That part I don't know for sure, because I have seen some clippings or articles that stated that they were either looking at it or they have it in place where it's based on number of kids or in your district, because right now it looks like the regular membership is $1 per student, and then based on the activities you have. So I'm not sure how this $9,000 was determined for Monticello schools.
Yeah, it's the same formula that's used across the state, and the formula used actually hurt some of the maybe smaller schools. Is where I heard most of the feedback that was concerning was more from smaller schools. I think mid to larger schools had the formula work in a way that felt maybe more comfortable, but I can't remember exactly how that works. I'd have to have Gary here. Gary explained it to me, but I can do some follow-up to let you know that, Jeff.
When does
So
this
what is
need-
this?
Oh,
Go ahead,
I was
Jill.
just going to say, when does it need to be approved by if you have more questions, Jeff?
It's not an action item, it's more of an awareness that this will affect the budget.
It does say it's an action item on the.
Oh, it does, okay.
Mhm.
I had added that, so I'm sorry that so
So
it
it's
doesn't
not-
need to be approved, Tina?
I'm not sure.
It's a bill that all member districts have, and it could be an action item. I know a lot of, when I listened to the last region meeting, most districts were bringing this forward as an action, so because it was a budget adjustment. So that's why we brought it forward as is, just so that everybody could see it. The Minnesota State High School League normally has all of their funding, through state high school tournaments, and with none of those going on, they don't have the revenue stream, and so this was a formula made by their board of directors with input from different associations in order to come up with what they felt like was the most fair way to provide the same level of service that we normally get, and have everybody have responsibility for that service.
Jeff, I know you've. Oh, I actually had a question for you, Jeff. I know you've done, been on, sat on that work and committee with the Minnesota State High School League. What does this sound like in your thoughts?
Well, we haven't had a meeting for a long time because of COVID, but I guess I had heard something about this previously, that some smaller districts were getting the raw end of it, and I don't. So I guess the question I have right now is, we're paying this fee for what? So I just a question, you know what? And I know the Minnesota High School League is important, and that we need to have it to continue our activities, all of our activities, arts and performing arts and music and all that stuff. But I understand in the past fees have helped cover state tournaments, all that other stuff, but none of that is moving forward. So kind of what is the fee covering? It's kind of what I'm wondering.
Maybe we should table this until we can have Gary here to explain it. He sits on the board, so that should be able to answer a lot of questions for us.
And we do have a meeting next week as well. So if Tina thinks it can wait a week, and Eric, then we could turn it around pretty quick.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, well, do I have to do a
motion?
Jeff, okay, second?
I make a motion to table the discussion about the membership fee.
This is Candy, second.
Motion made by Jeff Hagley, second by Candace Carta. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Candy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
I'm sorry, one more question for Tina. Tina, is this by tabling this, is this kind of messing up how you're moving forward with your budget, or are you okay with this?
I'm just starting the budget revision. So when I see their next invoice, if it's before next week, that I'll just hold on to it for another week.
Okay. Then, yes.
And Jill, yes. Motion to table this discussion until the last meeting, and let's let Mr. Rebnig know that we would like him to help present on it. That would be great. Approved, 6-0. You almost got like the John Reeves treatment there, Tina, so sorry about that. Gary does this to people. Nobody should talk when Gary just says, can you present for me? No. Anyway, thank you for your information on that, Tina. It's appreciated. Now the 2019-2020 end of year report.
Yep. So Jill, do you want to make me as host? And I'm the host. All right.
There you
so
go.
I'm gonna share my screen. Yes. There. So
looks good.
So you can see it okay? Because I always worry when Mondays are Rotary days as well. So I'm with the screens and all that. Want to make sure my settings are okay. So you can see the PowerPoint? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh goodness. What's not advancing? Why isn't it advancing?
Is
Is it
it
advancing?
towards the bottom, Tina?
Yes. Okay.
Does,
Then what?
does it give you a next slide option?
No. It does not. So I think I'm going to have to make you the host again, Jill, unfortunately, and I'll just have to tell you to be next.
Okay.
And I do that by Jill, make host. All right. So as she kind of gets that ready, I have our end of year report for the last year, 19-20 school year, and hopefully just to give you a preview of how last year shook out before we have our audit presentation, which will be the first meeting in December. And so and you can go right away to the second screen or second slide. Oh, it's PDF. You'll have to scroll down on the page. So with our end of year report, I like to talk about average daily membership or our kid counts. And a couple things to notice on here that you're seeing similar trends on the resident kids that live within the school district and then the kids that attend our school district, the adjusted ADM, average daily membership. But as you can see, our resident bar is just slightly higher than our adjusted ADM. So we are an open enrollment loser. So we have more kids leaving the districts than attending, but just by a smaller amount. Also, when you keep in mind our school district budget, a large part of our budget is determined on enrollment and state aid, and that large piece of state aid is called general education aid. And we've seen some small increases from the legislators. What we get each year is based on what they award us, and the last 5 years, almost 6, has been 2%. So just small increases each of those years. And then this year, I added a new section. When I was listening to or kind of seeing some levy information or conversations happening out there, it's hard, I think, for people to understand that Monticello is a little different. Our general fund comprises of Monticello information as well as the special ed cooperative. And so when people see our information at the state level, it's our information plus the co-op because they're purchasing the employees that are on Monticello contracts. And if you go to the next slide, Jill, the next page, and just as an example, so our total expenses, if you just looked at Monticello and you looked at the kids we serve, our expenses per ADM or per kid is just almost $11,000 per kid. But because we have the co-op expenditures with our information, it looks inflated, where we're spending $13,000 per kid or something close to like what Edina or some of the metro schools would pay. So it's hard to convey that and trying to figure out how I can do a better job of communicating that better and it's in the end of year reports or putting that on our website so people kind of understand Monticello a little better and not just look at things on the surface. They have to kind of know our story as well. And so if we go to the next slide and just look at the general fund for the Monticello district, this was our revenues for last year in comparison to the budget. So the revenues were pretty spot on, just over 0.24% budget versus actual. We had a little bit of CARES money that we utilized in the spring. And in the other category Our fundraising student activity had less activity in the spring compared to prior years, so not as much happening there compared to what we thought was budgeted. And if you look at last year compared to this year, there's about $2 million of higher revenue compared to last year. Some of that's due to the property tax levy with higher enrollment and the referendum inflation. And then also in the state aid, higher enrollment with the general education aid. We had a Pinewood security grant of $215,000, another security aid of $145,000, and $100,000 extra in state special ed aid. On the expense side, there's our revenue broken down. Just so you can see, our state sources is our main source of income. And then next, if you look at our expenses in the Monticello General Fund, we were under budget by $1.4 million, or 3%. In our salaries and benefit categories, we had less paraprofessionals in the spring once people were leaving and we were in full COVID or kind of the shutdown distance learning. We didn't replace those positions. We had less paraprofessional substitutes that we were filling during that time. We didn't have a high school custodian for the last half of the year, and we also had less custodian overtime happening during the last part of the year with our buildings not being used as much. And then the spring targeted services, we didn't have that as well. Under purchase services, we had less, no, stay there please, Jill. In our purchase services, we had less utilities in garbage, water, electricity, phone, and we had less in building repairs. Under supplies and materials, it was our heating bill that we saved money, and then again, that less activity in our fundraising student activity accounts. Under capital, we had capital purchases that were delayed till next year, as well as that security aid that we had. Some of those projects were put on hold as March happened, and hopefully get to those projects this year. And looking at our expenses compared to last year, pretty even, 45.3 million, 45.8 million. We had a $500,000 increase, but going into the school year, we had 250,000 of a budget target that we were trying to do, but we did add some staff after the initial budget adoption. With higher kindergarten enrollment coming in, we added an extra kindergarten teacher. We added a district-wide social worker that was partially funded by CentraCare. And then another Pinewood temporary hire that we did due to a mid-year retirement. And so and then we'll have a graph on kind of what our expenses look like. And again, most of that, as you know, 80% is salary and benefits, with the rest being all the other stuff of our budget. And so then what does that mean for fund balances? And as you know, we have 3 different categories. We have the restricted fund balance that is determined by state and state law, different statutes. So those are listed there. Our long-term facility maintenance is growing just because we're using our bonds in the construction fund first before we start tapping into our general fund long-term facility maintenance set aside. The next category we have is the committed and assigned fund balance. If you want to go to the next slide, Jill. And in that category, we have our severance fund balance that we committed, and each year that just winds down based on the number of retirements. And then slowly but surely that will be 0, and a lot of our contracts will have that kind of sunsetted, and we'll only have the 403B match. So those obligations will be in our budget annually. We have our building carryover based on supply budgets on what they used or didn't use for the year, and then our scoreboard advertising. Last meeting, I did ask you to assign a COVID fund balance, but during the second review of our audit, they didn't want me to book that receivable. So getting a little accounting detail for you, but because the the federal awards weren't awarded to us until August. They didn't want that receivable booked in last year. And so if I designated that assigned fund balance, that would kind of overinflate kind of where we're truly at. And so where we're at, the next slide is our unassigned fund balance. And because we had a lot of those one-time savings with the paras and the subs and the custodian and some of those things being delayed till next year, the utility savings, we have a nice little one-time bump in our unassigned fund balance to almost 8%. But really want to, make sure you guys realize that we still got to revise this year and look at all the CARES money and kind of see how this is shaking out and what targets do we want to hit for next year. So just a precautionary note there for our fund balance and just a graph to kind of see that. And then we have our general fund with the co-op. So they did pretty good on their budget to actual. Again, a lot of this is based on the purchase staff that they purchase under Monticello contracts, but they do also have some expenses in the other categories because they're part of our P-card program, and how they can pay for all these different expenses could either be through some state aid, some federal money, or tuition or other sources through their monthly payment to me. So it's a break-even fund. They don't have a fund balance in here. And again, just another thing to note when people look at our financials on the surface, our budget is increasing by, I just pick a number, $2 million. Okay, yes, maybe half of that is related to Monticello programs, and maybe half of that is due to the special ed co-op and what they're doing if they're adding more staff and adding more programs to them. So it's just something to be mindful of when people are looking at information to make sure that they understand the Monticello story. Our food service fund, we had revenues just slightly ahead of expenses. The governor awarded the unused state aid funds under this National School Lunch Program and Breakfast Program to be divided equally to school districts, so that helped us make this budget positive. So that equated to about $32,000 for Monticello schools. On the expense side, things are pretty close to what was budgeted. So nothing really stands out to me in that fund. The community ed fund, this was affected by COVID, as I stated earlier in the end of year report. A lot of these programs are fee-based. So in the end, we did do a transfer, which you approved last meeting, to help out the community ed and ECFE fund balance, as those were fee-based. And you'll see that transfer in of $235,000 that was approved last meeting. But you can see our school readiness program, our ABE, and the restricted fund balance, which is used for retirement or non-public or preschool screening, we're still positive, but the community ed and ECFE were negative, and we did that transfer to balance it out. Excuse me. Our hockey fund is another break-even fund, and is managed in partnership with the Monticello Youth Program. And if there's a deficit, they have to take care of it. And if there's a surplus, we split it 50-50. And there was a surplus for the end of last year of just under $6,000. So we split that, and our 50% kind of is set aside for capital needs in the arena. Our construction fund is based of our referendum and our 2 long-term facility maintenance and our Pinewood long-term facility maintenance bond. So the long-term facility maintenance and the referendum will be spent down at the end of this year, with that summer being split between 2 fiscal years. It always makes projects hard to budget. But then the long-term facility maintenance Pinewood bond, I think I just received the Pinewood rebate for the energy savings based on that project. So we'll have $900,000 to transfer back to the debt service fund to offset future levies. So just waiting to make sure from BCI, who managed the bills, just to make sure there's nothing left and kind of get that final tally of what we can transfer back to the debt service fund. Next, we have our debt service fund or our mortgage account. So we have to levy 105% of our bond payments. And then the expenses are the bond payments out with some bond fees to our financial advisors. So our fund balance is shown there at the end of the year. And next we have our trust. Whoopsie, that's labeled wrong. It's our internal service fund. And that holds the activity of our dental insurance plan. And with COVID, there were less visits in the spring. They weren't doing preventative visits. It was only emergency type visits that people could come in. So our fund balance did increase a little bit in that fund. And last but not least, our OPEB fund. So again, with this account, we have to recognize all retirement obligations in here, whether they're paid out of here or not. But we only pay our non-sunset contracts out of this fund, and that was about $101,000 of payments that we paid out of this fund. At the same time, we contributed $50,000 into this fund to kind of help that trust stay at a good level. So that's all the activity of all of our obligations recognized here. But again, the ones that do have sunset clauses, those are kind of paid out of our general fund and our OPEB levy. But our trust is shown there. Any questions? No, they want to be done.
It's a lot of really great information, Tina, and it's nice to see, to be close to that 8% for our policy. But that being said, there's still all of that work that we saved money obviously on garbage, lighting, some of those things in paras, but there are some things that still need to come out of those funds, correct?
Yes. So, but some of that will be restricted, like the capital that were delayed. Some of that's in our capital fund balance, but that the security was a restricted fund balance as well under Safe Schools.
Okay.
So, yep, a lot of that, is with our utility savings.
Well, it's a good place for us to be going forward. And, obviously, sadly, we did not pass the operating levy. That would have been really helpful. So this is good news to hear at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Still cautiously optimistic, but thankful to be in that place. So thank you for all your work on that.
Yep, thanks. Apologize for the commotion in the basement.
Oh, it's
we're
all
in the
good.
kid business. We're supposed to hear kids.
It's all good. All right. Well, thank you, Tina.
Yep.
With that, we will take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene with a different link. Board members will go into closed session for the purpose of evaluating the superintendent. So good night, everybody else.